Would you ever want to be on reality television? Have you ever been on reality television? And reality TV covers a multitude of different shows these days, none of which actually deal in reality. Martin Campbell is a former Ofcom chief advisor, former chairman of the Broadcast Journalism Training School, and he joins me this morning. Martin, thank you for your time. So, from today, new protections available for people taking part in a whole variety of broadcast experiences. I guess for a lot of people, the focus is going to be on reality TV and the way that some contestants or participants, whatever the right noun would be, have had those experiences.
The source of all this, Darren, is the big problem. Is reality TV has got nothing to do with reality, and that's why making rules around it is going to end in tears, and I'm sure these will as well.
How should something like reality television be governed? Because its defenders will say those who take part, particularly now, know what it's all about and they know what to expect.
Exactly, and that you hit the problem exactly there. That's right, because anybody who takes part in these programs know that they're asking for trouble. So making rules for them to be protected from the trouble they're asking for is a little bit crazy, and that's why I feel that this is just not going to work in the form that it's been presented.
Well, what is wrong with that form? What do you think ought to happen here?
Probably what ought to happen is that there ought to be a good drains up. I mean, there is a wider picture to look at, and that is the internet and the things that are available for people to watch that look like television, that are not the normally regulated television, and the lines are getting very blurred now, and it's very difficult to know what is actually guided. Now, I mean, my own view is that some of the things that have gone on in reality television shouldn't be allowed on regulated TV. But then you have the problem that people want to take part in these things. Then, yeah, why shouldn't they? Because it's their right, etc., etc. And that's where the whole fulcrum of the problem comes in. But trying to say, broadcasters, and you're talking now about the regulated broadcasters by Ofcom, ITV and BBC and the channels that you see on Sky and all the rest of it, that they can offer due care to vulnerable people. Well, vulnerable people being protected, of course, we all want that. But there's an argument to say that anyone who wants to take part in these sort of shows are probably vulnerable anyway. They either want to be a celebrity or they don't know what on earth they're doing. So, who works out where the boundaries of vulnerability lie? And due care is a regulatory term that is thrown in when people don't know quite what to do, because the word due, well, what's due? They know that they're going to go into something crazy.
Yes. Well, literally, to quote Ofcom here, a new requirement for broadcasters to take due care over the welfare of people who might be at risk of significant harm as a result of taking part in a programme. And as you suggest, that potentially is anyone, isn't it?
Absolutely. Of course it is. It is absolutely anyone. I mean, not everyone is a Paul Burrell or a Tony Blackburn who come out of reality shows with their credibility enhanced, if you like. People are going to be trolled by lunatics on social media. They're going to be upset. They're going to have death threats. They're going to have all sorts of horrible things said about them. And that is what's going to happen. And you have to have been living under a stone for the last 10 years to know that that's not the case.
Well, do you think this is going to mean then, in practice, that TV companies are going to vet participants to see if they are, and I don't like this phrase, but it gets the job done, if they are mentally strong enough to go through that which they're going to be subjected to? Or is it about providing them with aftercare to help them if they are being bullied on social media? What, in practical terms, do you think that due care is going to mean?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not an expert, and therein lies the problem. Because if I was going to go to an organisation to find out whether somebody was mentally stable or not, it wouldn't be a television company. So what are they going to do about it? In the past, Ofcom, interesting, if you look at their observations and their responses to complainants about the way that people have been treated on reality TV shows, have always been actually more concerned with the feelings of the viewers. And it's only recently, and I think this is probably down to the exposure that mental health problems have had during the COVID crisis, that they've suddenly turned their attention to people who actually appear on these shows. But the idea that you're going to tell a TV producer, you must inform people of the welfare risks of appearing on a reality TV show, we'll be here forever.
Yeah, and I can't pretend to be someone who watches reality television, because I'm not. But I did watch the very first series, the first season of Big Brother, because I thought the idea was genuinely fascinating. When that was novel, when that was new, and as a fan of Orwell, I was attracted by the title as much as anything else. The idea that you would have this quasi-scientific study of humanity, and I just took it as read that there wouldn't be a series 2, because by the time series 1 had happened, everyone who'd been a participant in that program knew what the experience was like. They knew that people were watching them, because remember, they, in that first series, wondered if anyone was going to be watching. It felt as if it was something that by its very nature could not be repeated. And I was astonished when it came back from season 2, season 3. And it felt very quickly as if it became something very different to that which was intended at the outset.
That sounds 100 years ago, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
It does. Some things like this have worked around the world. I mean, I worked in Holland for quite a long time, and they had what I suppose you would recall, what you would call a reality TV and radio show, where they put two people who were clearly at odds, either in their views of society or their views of politics or their views of culture or their views of religion, who did not know each other, and they put them in the room, and I think they each took in a book and they each took in a record, and they talked to each other. So you would have a union leader who had never met a boss of the equivalent of the CBI, and they put them in the room together and just recorded their chat for sort of 2 or 3 hours and got a good half-hour program out of it, which actually was reality. And there's something in that you talk about with that first Big Brother. There's something that you said, this is very interesting. This is a social experiment. Well, now it isn't a social experiment, and it's like everything else, Darren, is follow the money.
And also, what has changed is, if you think back to that program that you describe in Holland or the first series of Big Brother, even if social media had been around then, it's kind of inconceivable that the contestants or the participants in this program or those programs would have been subjected to death threats by strangers.
Yes. Of course. And we know also from the investigations that have gone on over the Jeremy Kyle show that, well, surprise, surprise, contestants are pushed to say more and more extreme things, to do more and more extreme activities. And that's what it's all about. It's all about viewing figures, and it's all about the money. And to start just talking about due care of people in this is a sort of piddle in the pot, really.
Do you think it can be done ethically, or is the genie out of the bottle now on this?
I think it's incredibly difficult because the genie is out of the bottle. More should have been done with it. And I thought, and it was actually while I was at Ofcom, that we had the, correct me if I've got some of the facts wrong, but it was effectively, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And Johnny Rotten, John Lydon, came out of the jungle or wherever he was, and came out with all these expletives that came out on live TV. And ITV's excuse for it was, we'll now put in a delay so that doesn't happen because we didn't realise that wasn't going to happen. Well, of course, that was why he was there. That's why he was put there.
He's famously been swearing on television since the 1970s. I mean, that's hardly a surprise that John Lydon's going to swear on the television. But in that case, and that goes back to something you mentioned earlier, Martin, that was about protecting the audience rather than the participant, wasn't it?
Yes, everyone is celebrity. You've got through all the celebrities, who are either clever enough or daft enough to take part in these things. And so you have to have real people. Oh, they're real people. Well, actually, they're not real people. They're people who want to take part in reality TV shows. These are not real people. These are people with a mindset that makes it very difficult to protect them because they don't want to be protected until it comes to the point where it's payback time. And that's why I say when it comes down to the money, the payback is on the poor people who take part in these programs.
So what do you say then to, I'm not sure anyone listening to this show is going to take this view necessarily, Martin, but if anyone is listening thinking, oh, just the two pious blokes on the radio completely missing the point of how entertaining reality television is, people go onto these shows with their eyes open, I have no sympathy for any contestant that willingly takes part. What do you say to them?
Two pious blokes on the radio,
I'm not implying there ought to be sympathy for us, maybe for the contestants in reality television programs, I would suggest.
What I would say to them is, look, of course there will always be people who will want to do the sort of jackass stuff that most people think, oh, do we really want this? And there are some people who do, and there are some people who want this. But I do think that what people should say is, look, where does this all finish up? And there's an interesting parallel, Darren, with professional wrestling.
Okay.
And with its exposure on television. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's all worked out in advance as to who's going to do what, right. But the stunts are getting more and more dangerous.
Okay.
To the point where someone will probably get killed. And I remember an interview with a wrestler called Mick Foley, who was talking out of his ring character and talking about getting audiences for television and talking about the Daffy Duck drop, where you see a cartoon and the duck drops out of the sky and bangs onto the concrete, but gets up and shakes himself. And wrestling has sort of come to that, where you can do anything and get up and just get on with your business. And people become inured to it, and they say, oh, that's all right, that's fine, that's okay. And then when you get people who are not professional in this, like people in reality TV shows, they get put in there and they don't know how to get up when they get hit. And this is a real problem. And we've had the cases, the Love Island and the Jeremy Kyle cases, we have had them. And at that point, I think it's not enough to say, oh, let's start talking about due care. You have to say, what on earth is this? This is entertainment and people are dying. That's not good enough.
Yeah, Martin, thank you very much. Martin Campbell, former Ofcom Chief Advisor, former Chairman of the Broadcast Journalism Training School. Thank you for your time this morning.